Today's story was written by Reddit user Some Random Kerbal. It was rare for alien dignitaries to come visit us. It wasn't anything we did per se. It was just excruciatingly difficult to organise. Unless you wanted to travel hundreds of light years in a sublight ship, the only way to go to another system is to use a folded space generator, an astoundingly complex gift delivered decades ago, which allowed for light years of distance to be compressed into mere light hours. But to actually gain access to such a generator would require the destination embassy to conduct a full security sweep on the entire ship, inch by inch. Furthermore, to actually activate the pathway, the two gates must simultaneously activate their folded space generators to initiate a folding event. Even then, the gates have to be continually powered with terawatts of power for several days, or the unlucky ship travelling through would be obliterated by the collapse of the spatial distortion. As a result, it was rare for anything more than high-value luxury goods to be transported through the gates. Actual alien visitors were so rare that even some systems with folded space generators have gone years without seeing any other species. So when Prayak, the highest rank ambassador, reserved only for dire galactic emergencies, demanded to arrive at the Uranus Gateway, everyone took it very seriously, even when we found out who we wanted to talk to. "Greetings, Professor." The vaguely Nidarian alien looks down, poorly hiding the fact that he is reading from a cue card. "Dinkins, I am here to talk about your system's superweapon program. Now, I know that, greetings to you too, Prayak, but you have been misinformed. We don't have a superweapon program, and if we did, the Joint Chief is on Earth, not on a gateway station. You are the head of," the Prayak looks down again at the cue card, "beamed power? Actually, I'm the sub-director of the Department of Energy pertaining to matters of beamed power." The professor pauses for a moment. "But yes, in that case, you are exactly who I need to talk to. It concerns an incident that occurred on Earth time frame of Tuesday, August 28 in the year 2131. The sub-director thinks for a second. "Is this about that probe we shot down? We already told the Techron conglomerate that it had a 2% chance of hitting Earth, so we destroyed it. Is this about our diplomats putting them over a barrel for firing an unguided probe at relativistic speeds? Because if so..." "It's not that. Now," the alien pulls out a datapad and hands it to the professor. "I believe you recognize this file? Don't bother asking where we got it because, yeah, I know what it is. That's not even close to being classified a superweapon. That is a UV range beamed power transmitter, probably circa 2065. That, isn't even a secret. The patent has been declassified since the 2080s. Actually, it's probably an M13 model. You can tell because of the adapters on the side." "Right, because that's what I'm worried about, the make and model. Do you understand what this means? A potential patent infringement? I'm pretty sure off-worlders still can't use our patents until about a century after production. It is one of the weapon satellites that you have admitted to have knowledge on, which you have been developing for decades. I cannot believe that you..." "What?" The professor stops mid-sentence and takes a deep breath. "Why would we put a weapons program into publicly available patents? This is a power transmitter, and a very outdated one at that." The alien is clearly unconvinced. A power transmitter. Why would anyone use a power transmitter instead of just building a power plant? The only conceivable reason is to use it offensively. That isn't the whole story here. Explain to me right now how this is supposed to be used for anything other than destruction." The professor takes an even deeper breath. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. What is the one requirement for a rocket?" "Thrust," said the alien, obviously confused as to where this is going. "Right. Now, to sustain that thrust for practical purposes, we use the plasma exhaust from the nuclear reaction. For us, It is magnetically targeted pulse fusion reaction detected at the We actually use antimatter. Not the point, said the professor. Anyway, to sustain the reaction you need massive amounts of power. Normally this comes from the fusion reaction itself. Get to the part about using superweapons as power sources. We're getting to it. So, either you use an MHD generator and decelerate the plasma as it comes out, or you grab what power you can from the radiation emitted. Either way, you are losing out on significant amounts of velocity from the engines, just to keep the engines running. So just use another reactor, interjected the alien, still not understanding the purpose of this speech. You're on the right track, but they weigh like a third of the total ship weight. A second reactor for just power would be ludicrously heavy. So imagine if we didn't need to carry the second reactor. The alien immediately sits up, if you can call it sitting. You send its power by EM radiation. The satellites? That's the power source for your ships? More or less. We fire it at designated receivers on the ship, and they convert it back to electricity. It works pretty well. Although we use X-rays now, the idea is mostly the same. And how many of these satellites do you have? The professor exhales quickly. Tough estimate. About 20,000 total, with 10,000 being at least partially activated at any one moment. The alien pauses for several moments. Collectively, assuming you use all the satellites together, this corresponds to about 2-ish megatons of TNT of energy per second. Usually each power station has multiplexers to target multiple ships, but they can all be directed at one target. I should mention that the range on the transmitters are very limited. Even with the use of X-ray based transmitters, in practice, it would only be about 1 megaton per second at most. Oh, only 1 megaton? That's very reassuring. And you don't see a problem with this? What if one of those beams strike a planet, even by accident? Ambassador, even if it were to hit a planet, which is extremely unlikely, UVC and X-ray radiation is very well absorbed by the atmosphere. We would be fine. I'm not referring to planets within this system. The professor paused again to think about this. Not an issue. The beam can only be focused so far, even with perfect lenses. Hell, we can barely focus our best satellites past 30 AU. That's why we have so many. Your star systems are fine. With your current devices, fine. What about a design specifically designed to strike a star system? That depends. How far away are we talking here? Assume you wanted to fire it at the closest inhabited star system relative to your location. Alright then, with current technology, we can rule out anything over 1,000 light years. The professor pulls out a calculator. Assuming we want a 1 kilometre wide airy disk at the distance to the Techron homeworld, which is about 103 light years away, and assuming that we use current X-ray technology, that would take a dish about 10 kilometres. Tough, but definitely doable. That is very disquieting. And what about anything further than that? How long would it take you to develop such technology? The normal jovial professor pauses, and looks concerned for a moment. I am obliged to give you my personal assessment on this, correct? Yes. The professor lowers his voice as if he were conveying a national secret, because he was. We're working on gamma-ray waveguides for longer-range power transmissions, strictly peaceful purposes. If, hypothetically, we were to fully nail the technology down, we could easily reach the 10 femtometer range. And, when transmitted across a 10-kilometre wide array, it might have the range to hit a system across the galaxy. Might have the range? Alright, fine. It would easily have the range. The professor looked at the obviously disquieted alien. But, it's not as bad as it sounds. It would take decades of research and years to build, of course, and larger ranges would be nearly impossible, even in the far future. But you could still do it. You could strike anywhere in the galaxy, said the even more disquieted alien. With technology that's about a century out? Yeah, I guess. This is... Hey, in fairness, this wouldn't be as bad as you think it is, said the professor, clearly realizing that he was in quite a lot of trouble. I'm dying to hear why not. Well, if I remember my aliens correctly, you're Vernadan, right? You guys sent us the folded space generators, didn't you? The FSGs were a joint collaboration between 3 races, us being one of them. Not the point. If we were to build such a weapon, which I must reiterate we would never do, the beam would only go at the speed of light. It would take several millennia to arrive anywhere reasonable. You could easily destroy us by then. The alien gets up, at least the best that a jellyfish-like creature could. Let us pretend that we wanted to attack your system, which, for the record, we don't. Let us assume that everyone in the galaxy wants to work with us. The closest FSG-equipped station would be, 100 light years? 103 light years, actually, at the Techron homeworld. Not the point. We would have to send a ship to build another gateway to this system at sublight speeds. Since it's doubtful that you would allow us to send warships to your planet, then we would have to actually accumulate all the ships through that gateway, without you mobilizing a minefield. Then, we would have to keep about 90% of our fleet just to protect the gateway, in case you guys decide to fire a RKV at the gateway. The project pauses. We are one of, if not the most powerful species in the galaxy. We are one of 3 species who can even make new FSGs. Hell, we were the ones who gave you the damn generators. Even with all of that advantage, we would have about a 20% chance of losing such a war, even excluding your ridiculous beamed weapons, or power generators, or whatever. The alien pauses. There have been 37 wars between interstellar powers in recorded history. Do you know how many times the attackers won? I don't know. 7? 0. Not one victory. All because it is that inconceivably hard to mobilize an attack fleet over several light years. That is the one thing that has allowed for peace in the galaxy for a millennia. And you have just upset that fragile balance, since you can order an attack on another planet across the galaxy, from your own system, by turning on a power switch. Hey, theoretically, it would take a century to actually create, says the professor, now visibly fidgeting. The alien continues, not to mention that the beam would travel at light speed, so we wouldn't be able to detect it unless it were to somehow pass nearby FSG. We don't actually keep those things lying around in the middle of nowhere, and we can't even defend against it because the gamma rays would just sail right through any shielding we could possibly create, much less the upper atmosphere. It would hit you guys in scores of millennia, and we wouldn't even guarantee a hit. It doesn't matter. You have the energy production to easily power it indefinitely and simply aim randomly until you hit, and for every 1 second that you are right. I know, megaton yield. Even then, the chance that it would hit you guys is astronomical. So is the potential threat of technology that can strike across the galaxy. In the interests of galactic safety, I, as Prayak for the Galactic Senate, demand you come with us to discuss this issue to the rest of the council. The professor pauses for a moment. And, when will that be? Within 30 hours. I'll be waiting at our embassy. Come alone. And with that, the alien left. at what was likely a breakneck pace for an alien without rigid legs. The professor sits back down, now alone, and begins to mumble. Should have been a lobbyist for Horizon Corp, or Raise TNT, or any other power transmitter company, he sighs. I hate Mondays.